Another video, proper political talk here, and today we're going to be talking about the 2020 presidential election and looking at the 538 forecast, which in my opinion is one of the best forecasts, and they have a lot of data to analyze nationwide and even state by state races, so we're going to look at all of that today. So before we get started, please remember to like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you guys are up to date with our latest content, and let's get started. So you can find this forecast on 538's website. And they right now have Biden slightly favored to win. Here we can see a ton of electoral simulations. They go from Trump's best case scenario to Biden's best case scenario. You can't see the whole ones on the edge. However, we can see there is more than half in Biden, and they give Biden a substantial amount of victory. So we're going to look at the numbers and the data that's behind all of this and why do they project this victory, as well as we're going to look into some of the state-by-state races. So, we must also consider that there's currently things in the news. So they have this little news tab, which I like, and they talk about some of the things that are going to be affecting the election. Right now, their marquee story that's going to affect the election is Hurricane Laura and how it is going to affect those areas of the country, as well as the Kenosha, Wisconsin protests and riots, which are currently impacting a lot of people, and that's going to be a tipping point for a lot of people. And all the violence in Portland, in Minneapolis, in Kenosha, these places are going to be impactful for a lot of voters, especially more moderate voters, because for a lot of them could agree that the Democratic Party hasn't taken that much action as they can, and a lot of moderates and even some Democrats are mad, and that's honestly going to really hurt the Democratic Party when it comes to the nationwide race if they don't start taking actions on that. So that's the one thing to talk about. So right now the odds at the presidency have 300. They ran 100 predictions and 100 the most 100 likely outcomes. Out of 30, Donald Trump, it has a 30% chance of winning at this point, according to them. 30 simulations, they have Trump winning, 69 for Biden. One is a 269 scenario. If we go through here, we can see, for example, this scenario would be a 269 where they have 2016 plus the district in Maine plus the state of Michigan plus Pennsylvania for the Democrats. And according to this, the best case scenario for Trump is 388, and this is where he would do a huge blowout of a lot of places. But right now, I think we're looking for a Trump scenario right now. For his victory, we're looking somewhere around more of this range. And for Biden, there are a lot of scenarios. The farthest going with a lot of blue, with things like Nebraska, Kansas, South Dakota flipping, and kind of the whole blue belt. Right now, the more likely scenarios that we're seeing is somewhere around this 330 range. Nationwide. So it's going to be interesting to see how it ends up working out. And yeah, so now let's take a look at the simulations. So they ran at 40,000 simulations, and this is going to be the higher that it is, it means the more likely it is. And here is going to be a little weird because you're going to see the Democrats, they're not likely to get 100 electoral votes, or they're very lowly likely. Well, the Republican Party are pretty high for that. And you can see that they have like an area where they're like 300 electoral votes right here. They curve a lot down, and that's because they do it by electoral votes. So I think at this point this would be the map where Texas starts coming into play and things like that. So right now the best case scenario for Biden would be further here, would be the simulations they ran and he gets a lot of vote. But the most likely right now, it's looking like it would be a 300 electoral vote victory, but then like a 350. And then like a smaller peak at like 413. So that's where Biden is looking at. And while Trump, his chances are a lot further better. That kind of reflects this. If you're to like put these two graphs together, it'd just be kind of reciprocals of each other. So with Trump, for his victory, it would be very low, but his highest chances are pretty much even from anywhere from 270 to about 350. But other than that, the president's chances, according to the forecast, are low. So now we're going to look at this actually graph, because it shows us what are the states that are going to be the most important. So the darker a state is, that means the more likely it is to go to one political party or the other. And you could call it a snake, shows us what states are further over the 270 column and all of that. So right now they have North Carolina for Trump, which some people still do not have North Carolina for Trump. Again, things definitely do change quickly. But what puts Biden over the edge? Arizona. Nebraska second, Florida, Wisconsin does it. Donald Trump's able to flip these 4 states. He's going to narrowly win. Then the Electoral College will come in, and who knows what that mess will look like. However, the forecast shows that he would carry an amount that would be good for his campaign. But I think as of right now, the Biden campaign is doing a good job at carrying those big swing states, which is where they should be focusing on. Well, winning states like New Hampshire is important. Why focus on them when they're only for electoral votes, where you could be focusing on states like Florida? Yeah, economic factors and all those different things do matter here. So we're not going to take the chance and look at some of the states. So first of all, state of Florida, this is one of the states where we know that it's very, very tight. Where, I mean, I think at this point in time, there's a lot of polls that have Trump ahead. Not a lot, but a couple who have mostly of them Biden ahead. And it's been flip-flopping over the last couple of weeks. At least excitement ground here on the ground. We don't see much support for Biden here on the ground. Again, it could be they don't want to support Biden in person or something like that, but who knows. When it comes to chances of victory, I mean, Biden was doing pretty good during his peak, but then Trump did pretty bad again. This would be the area of Black Lives Matter and all of that. He started to go up, which really helps him. When it comes to the popular vote, it would be essentially you winning the state, because if you notice, the graphs are exactly the same, because since it's the Electoral College, it doesn't really matter, because if you win the popular vote in the state, you win the whole electoral count. So right now, the electoral count is very close. There's a lot of purple on this map, which means right here would be around Donald Trump's best case scenario, while right here would be Biden's worst, since Biden is ahead. So I think like right now, the election is a lot tighter in Florida. And I mean, we have a lot of recent polls. They have a couple of polls that are even. And Biden, the lead has been narrowing. The polling averages actually have it at 6 or 7%, when rather the Change Research has Biden +3, Public Policy has +4. We have this poll, which I think is an outlier because it doesn't have a rating, at 8% plus Biden. And we're seeing these 2 latest polls show the race narrowing down. So now that we're doing this, let's just go through and talk about some of the other swing states. Let's talk about the state of North Carolina. This is a state where, realistically, right now it's one of the closest, because we recently have had the flip from the Democrats to the Republicans, at least when it comes to leading in polling data. And right now, most simulations have Donald Trump ahead by a substantial margin. And looking at the chances of winning, this has been like the similar things that we've seen, but Donald Trump was able to gain the momentum and keep on growing. There was a time about maybe mid-August, when the first flip happened, where things were just pretty good and steadily for Donald Trump. We had a couple days ago, so like I think the first day of the convention, 50-50, but then the convention has been able to push some voters over the edge, and essentially that's the percent chances that we're seeing to victory. Right now, he has 6% more chances, which, again, in chances is absolutely nothing. Having a 6% chance more is nothing. So, now looking at the graph of the popular vote, it's very contested. You can see that because there is a lot of purple on the map. The more purple, the more contested it is. And this is almost entirely going to be very, very contested. And this shows the race is still in the game for everyone at this point. Because, again, this is a state that realistically has been flip-flopping for a long time. Latest polling data are very flip-flop. You have a lot of Trump plus polls early August. We're having Biden come in with some recent polling data +1 and +3. However, we're going to start seeing the true effects of the convention, the effects of the Kenosha riots, all these different things soon when it comes to polling data. So we talk about Florida. Let's talk about the state of Arizona. This is a state where a lot of people are saying that this state is almost solidly in the Biden column, but it's pretty much all the different. It's in the same perspective than North Carolina. Like the same way that Biden is losing in percent chances in North Carolina, Trump is in Arizona, which is surprising because everyone's been saying that Donald Trump's been doing completely horrible in Arizona. He was at one point in time, but I mean, look at this map. He's gone up, and he's gaining momentum while Biden's coming down. When it comes to the popular vote, again, very, very close. Does this mean that Joe Biden is going to lose? No. This does mean, though, that the election will be a lot more contested. Because I remember there was a point in time where a lot of people were even considering to put it in the likely and safe margins. So that was a little interesting. And some of the recent polling, so the most recent poll has Biden ahead by 2. We had some recent Trump polls, and then there's like one outlier poll that has Biden plus 9. However, I mean, a lot of this polling data that we're seeing, we have Biden ahead in a lot of these places. Now, the last state I want to talk about, state by state wise, is the state of Wisconsin, because these Kenosha riots are going to be affecting this election in the state of Wisconsin, because at this point, a lot of people, when it came to Black Lives Matter as a whole, yeah, everyone, I mean, all Americans essentially, they went for the movement. They supported that there should be some form of justice for Black Americans in the country. But what a lot of them do not approve of is violence to get there, especially in the state of Wisconsin. I mean, and a lot of these states, they're going to feel the hit when they get it for the first time. That's going to be when they first feel the effects. So I think at this point, watch out for Wisconsin, because these things are going to make it very, very interesting to watch, because these riots, if anything, are hurting the Democratic Party. So the forecast has changed recently. Looking at it, that in a way that we've seen this huge dip. I mean, not a huge dip, but like a pretty fast dip for the Democratic Party since the Kenosha riots. And if they keep on going and getting worse, a lot of these voters in these places where maybe a lot of them were voted for Trump and they were considering voting for Biden, a lot of these people will not want to vote for Biden anymore. When it comes to polling data, we have one Tafa Gabbard group that had Trump ahead by 1. Everything else is pretty much 5 points for Biden. That's very interesting. So I feel like the state of Wisconsin is a state for you guys to watch out for, because at the end of the day, this state might be a lot closer. So let's wrap up this video by a couple of things. So first of all, the election is looking at a point where Donald Trump and his campaign should have a lot of optimism, because right now they're gaining in momentum nationwide. A lot of these things that are happening, and someone are getting blamed or endorsed, like when being like not endorsed, but being being put next to the Democrats, like these riots and some of the other things. Not good for them. And I think, like, honestly, one thing that's also hurting the Democratic Party is how they're dealing with press, at least at the presidential campaign level. Biden and Harris haven't have answered reporter questions in so long, which really does hurt them nationwide, because then they're not able to interact with the voter and get more media. I mean, Harris today, she was at an event, she didn't answer questions. It's becoming a very big trend, which again is unfortunate, because that might really hurt them. And I think if you're running for president, you should be ready, or even vice president, to answer the questions the American people have for you. That's something the Biden-Harris campaign hasn't been doing, which could end up hurting them in the polls in the long run. So right now, 538 has Biden slightly favored to win the election. Very interesting. I want to see how this forecast develops. And yeah, so guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If so, please give it a huge thumbs up, like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you guys are up to date with our latest content. Hope you enjoyed the video, and goodbye.